Welcome back to Driving Performance. I'm your host, Tom Shea, the co-founder of Agile Media Group, joined by two awesome founders today. We got Matt Weiss from Rind, Alan Dushi of Graza. Matt Weiss is the founder and CEO of Rind, tasty dried fruit snacks that are crispy and craveable, on a mission to address today's most critical environmental issues, including food security, climate change, and energy conservation. They do this by sourcing high quality but cosmetically imperfect fruit that would have otherwise been discarded. Alan Dushi is the co-founder of Graza, a delicious high quality olive oil that brings the chef's bottle of olive oil into retail. Their oil is unblended and made from 100% piqual.
Piqual.
Oh, so, all right. So now that grown in Jaén, Spain.
Jaén.
We'll talk about Andrew on this for sure. And ever since its launch earlier in 2022, Graza has been on a rocket ship. Graza is a chef and celeb favorite, one of the coolest brands on social media, available online, offline, and everywhere in Whole Foods. Gentlemen, welcome to Driving Performance.
Thank you.
What are we doing here?
Yeah. So that's the first question. So we have a lot of audio-only listeners. I start this show off asking the same question of everyone. How would you describe people what the hell is happening on this set design right now?
I am in a mobile studio apartment with plexiglass on all sides.
The cost of it's almost like the cost of this is almost like renting a studio
Hanging
apartment.
with great people, about to talk delicious products.
Yeah.
I'm happy to just be in person. I've only done one podcast before, and it's been on Zoom.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would be in a glass truck
Getting
on the corner
mic'd up.
of 24th and 7th in New York City, but I like this a little more.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, Alan, Matt, another question I ask of everyone is, do you guys know each other? If so, how do you know each other? What's the backstory there? How'd you meet? Take it away.
So we met at a networking event probably 2 or 3 months before Graza launched, and talked for 10 minutes. I sent him a follow-up email to ask him 100 retail questions that
Yeah.
I didn't know the answers to or even where to begin. And we've actually stayed in really good touch, and he's been I would say informal advisor. We tried to get him on board, but I think you had your son's bar mitzvah coming up.
Got in the way.
But he's offered a lot of help to Graza and guidance as we rolled into retail, actually.
Yep. Met him at this event.
Do you remember the event?
I do.
Who put it on?
It was a rodeo.
Rodeo CPG?
Rodeo CPG.
All right, shout out Rodeo CPG.
There you go. Maybe Naturally New York.
Okay, we'll
It
shout
was
them out
all
too.
like the whole box of CPG like tools that everyone uses.
A new variant of COVID was formed from this event. It was so jamming, and it was just one of the first like back in-person events, and the energy was just off the charts.
Nice.
And everyone had like a physical product they were walking around the bar with, except this guy,
Yeah.
who was therefore more interesting to me. And I was like, "What's your story?" And I just heard some like people geeking out over some really cool olives, so
Awesome.
got to talking.
Cool. All right. Well, let me lay out the structure of the show. So, as we are in a truck, there's going to be a few different stops along our route. The first stop is going to be origin stories, just talking through the formidable moments, inflection points through your career that got you guys to your respective brands. The second stop is going to be brand-specific questions. So I have questions prepared unique to each of your organizations. Stop 3 is going to be intersection questions, where we're going to talk through. I'm going to have one question essentially posed to the both of you that I think you guys can both uniquely weigh in on in the context of your brands. Stop 4 is a game we call the Hot Box, a tongue-in-cheek play on the game The Hot Seat. So we'll talk about that when we get there. And then Stop 5 is quite literally the end. We'll wrap, talk about where people can find your products, and we'll go from there. Sound good?
Awesome.
Very cool.
All right, so Matt, I want to start off Stop 1 on our journey, just hearing about your story. It's you were in one spot for a while, maybe a dino in the modern era there. But why don't you take us back to the very beginning and the origin story for starting Rind?
Yeah, very unconventional path to selling fruit snacks. I don't know if there is much of a straight path to getting there. I joke that my great-great-grandparents, who probably came over here on a boat to sell pickles or dried fruit out of a push cart on the Lower East Side, would probably be aghast at that we didn't make much progress. But what I love about this is I am absolutely doing something I'm passionate about. It's not to say I wasn't doing it before. I was 20 years in finance at an incredible firm. It was a big mutual fund where I had the opportunity to research amazing companies, public companies in the food and beverage space. So the sector was something I was becoming more and more familiar with. And nothing paled in comparison to the excitement of hearing a founder's story and bringing an idea to life from nothing more than just that, an idea in their head. That when I would go back to my desk and map out their dreams in a spreadsheet and then make recommendations, it quickly became apparent to me that what I really wanted to do was be building and be on the other side of the table and have a concept of my own that I believed in passionately that could become something big.
Yeah, and what was the inspiration for Rind? I know you talked, I think it was your great-grandmother had some influence on it.
Yeah, so my great-grandmother, her name was Helen Seitner. She was just like cut from a different cloth. She was a product of the Great Depression, had a health food store in the 20s and 30s in Flint, Michigan. It was like 700 square feet, bulk bins. She really walked the walk. And she had unique perspectives. I got to know her as a little kid because she lived to 100 and was just a picture of vitality. She actually had like an orange glow to her skin from what we later learned to be carotemia, which is when you drink a lot of carrots, your skin tone turns orange.
Whoa.
So that made her infinitely more interesting on family vacations and Thanksgivings.
It wasn't Rind orange.
Could have been. And anyway, she really was the inspiration behind real whole fruit, roots, rind, seeds, and stem. So I pay homage to her with Rind.
Yeah, awesome. And you studied Spanish literature, right?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so good segue into Graza.
Yeah, perfect.
So, Alan,
Oh my God, how am I supposed to compete with that?
No, but take us back. I mean, you had a really interesting path too, and I definitely want to hear about Andrew as well as someone he's in Spain currently, right?
Yeah, correct.
So,
Yeah,
go for it.
he's visiting Jaén tomorrow actually.
There you go.
To hopefully get some good visualizations on how next year's olive harvest is going. But I had a strange path actually. I graduated with a finance degree in 2009, which is just the wrong time to graduate with a finance degree.
Interesting. There's been actually a lot of guests who've had that like exact same story.
Yeah, exactly. So my uncle was just starting a clothing company. He's been a boom and bust entrepreneur his whole life, ups and downs. I always had a great relationship with him. He was just starting a company called Shirt by Shirt, and he said, "Come work for me." I said, "What do you do?" He said, "I'm making flannel shirts." Okay, fantastic. Like, I'll take it. Yep.
No.
Jax, go buy Jax everywhere you can buy flannel shirts. It was a $2 million business. I was the second full-time employee. Got sent immediately to the warehouse to project out next year's orders and shipping. We did $11 million in our second year, and ended up with a warehouse just full of flannel shirts, big binder of customer orders, no idea who could pay, no idea who to ship to, no idea what was in stock, and it was just figure it out. So I disappeared for a year and shipped everything and collected and got paid and just really
where
saw
are
the
we at
ins and
this
outs.
point?
This is 2009, 2010.
In which geography?
In Queens.
Okay, got it.
The office was in Soho, but I got shipped to Queens
There you go.
open up a 10,000 square foot warehouse. And just
What was behind 2 to 11? Like from year
Yeah.
1 to year 2, that's a hell
I'll
of a
take any
deal.
of that advice.
so
Yeah.
I learned a lot from him, and it was in this industry. It's very different in olive oil, but someone is going to knock you off, so you might as well knock yourself off. So we were selling shirts to Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's, but we were also just knocking ourselves off and just making the same product for Forever 21 and Off Saks Fifth Avenue and Nordstrom private label and just all the things that you don't get credit for. At the beginning of a business, you just have to build the foundation. You have to build the cash flow. And
So were they being white labeled essentially?
they were being white labeled.
Got
Yeah.
it.
We would show up to Forever 21's office with 15 duffel bags just filled with flannel shirts and set up an entire room. And there was this incredible buyer who would just flip through one by one and start writing down style numbers and order 10,000 of each of them. He'd order 13 styles every 3 weeks to deliver 10,000 of them. And it was just the like actual foundation of the business was the
cool.
cash flow that
cool.
created.
Wow.
So very shrewd,
Yeah.
businessman, my uncle, and I basically got to grow with him, and we grew that business to 9 figures.
Wow.
and I saw everything from sales and business with Costco. I opened retail stores. I started our Shopify website in 2012. So I really touched everything: bank lending and licensing,
Well, good experience.
lots of different operational experiences. Andrew was working at all of the darling startups. He was at Warby Parker early. He was the second or third employee at Casper, where he worked for,
Right.
I think, 5 or 6 years. Most recently at Magic Spoon as their first employee. So we got introduced by a mutual friend who knew that Andrew had the idea for, basically the Casper of olive oils. Let's simplify it down to 1 or 2 SKUs, bring a better quality at a fair price, and launch a digital-first brand. And I came to the table saying, let's launch a digital-first brand, but build it in retail, where 99.999% of olive oil gets bought. And that's, I think, something that we did really early. We always had this retail-first mentality that a lot of new brands kind of miss.
Totally.
They take 2 or 3 years to open their first store.
And so, what was the transition from working with your uncle to the getting involved with Graza?
I was ready for something new to do my own thing. We Andrew and I hopped on the phone. I think this was June 2021.
You were still at Jack's at the time?
I was still at Jack's, and I was thrilled with the idea. I knew actually a lot about the problems and the fraud in olive oil.
Right.
Through a friend that has a little olive farm in Italy and brings cases over, and I tried some of her product, and it was fantastic and a huge difference. But that was, that product was $50 for a 300 milliliter bottle. When we talked about where this can go and what this product could be, it was quality, affordable price, fun branding.
Yeah.
And in 15 minutes, we were both on board and ready to go. And I think I quit my job 2 weeks later after we signed a deal to do this together. And I was just thrown in. Andrew was already working with our marketers, which he stole from Magic Spoon, our branding agency, which he stole from Magic Spoon. I'm not going to say stole, they're agencies, they're out there, but he had the whole team put together of how to make this product come to life. And the first 3 to 6 months, we did everything together. We didn't divide responsibilities. We just went into everything together. We made every decision together, and actually our division of responsibilities happened really organically.
Yeah.
And it's been a really great partnership. He's doing all of our product, all of our sourcing. He's in Spain. He has an amazing relationship with our suppliers. He knows what's going into the bottle. He knows the quality. He knows the cell structure of every olive varietal. He's really become an expert in the product, which you need to be. He's the marketing brains of Graza, and he's also the CPG networker, fundraiser, because he's coming from that world where finance, operations, sales, logistics, all the backbone stuff. It just split very, very naturally. And flannel.
Yeah. What you guys both had really interesting paths, and longer ones than I'd say the average founders that we've had on here. What are some things what are some of the most important things I think you learned from those previous experiences that has set up your success when you started your own venture?
Sales and cash flow is everything. That's the mentality that I've always had and got really, my business training was on. Sales are everything. They come first, they come second, they come third. Right. You need them to keep the lights on. If we raised $1 billion, I would still have this mindset of operating profitably and just shipping product. Good things happen when you're shipping product. As soon as that starts slowing down, you're in trouble.
Yeah. I would say there were two things not dissimilar. One was product positioning. So to me, some of the more successful brands that I've come across sit somewhere at the intersection of novel and familiar. If you're overly novel, you tend to become a niche product, and if you're overly familiar, you tend to risk commoditization. But you also, where you sit on that sort of spectrum, I think has to be you're doing something really interesting and different in an area that people say, oh yeah, I'm familiar with that. I've had dried fruit before. I've had olive oil before. But subtle changes, and it could be obviously the quality of the raw material, but also the form factor, right? Like what I think is so cool about, Alan's product is the form factor.
Right.
Is that olive oil just, it stops you in your tracks, it's arresting, you know how to use it, so it's intuitive.
It's not a huge educational lift.
Yeah.
The educational barrier really isn't there. Same with fruit, right? Dried fruit has been around for thousands of years. You'd bury grapes in the desert sun and you'd have raisins.
Right.
It's the ultimate, travel snack, but nothing new under the sun had been discovered or innovated around besides raisins and prunes. And simple things like making it a snackable chip, but instead of an apple chip, use orange chips, use peach chips, use them in different ways, dip them in hummus and guacamole. Think much more, broad where consumer tastes are shifting as opposed to where they've been.
Right.
But do it with a canvas that is familiar. So novel and familiar was one lesson that I learned, that we had some fringe SKUs and that, would help build the brand, but they wouldn't ultimately be the business builders, but they played a role.
Right.
And the other big lesson was, I would totally underscore, is sales. Like I was a financial analyst for 20 years and I didn't know how to sell a darn thing, right? I could research a company 9 ways to Sunday. I could put together an incredibly comprehensive model and make a persuasive pitch to a portfolio manager. But when I walked into the door of a corner bodega with a case of Rind and they said they liked it and they wanted 4 cases, what's the price? I wasn't even prepared for that second question. It was a fall on your face moment and you're just like, okay, I'm selling and now I need to figure this out. Yeah. And as soon as you get into it and understand, all right, here's where I need to price this to make a margin so that this guy gets his take, this guy, to figure out something that's viable and learn that and shore up what you don't know as a muscle, it was the beginning.
Yeah.
That was exciting.
How obviously, like you came up with having those experiences. Yeah. So I think you probably came into it a bit more prepared. You talk about falling flat on your face a few times, but like what gave you the confidence? I think, or how did you learn those skills quickly? Because obviously you talk about them being the most important things, but at the same time you didn't feel prepared for that.
Yeah, I think so much of branding forgets the nitty-gritty building blocks of a business. And, especially today where you really, in the last 5 to 10 years, you could put up a Shopify storefront that's sleek and beautiful and have incredible content. And it's almost like you have brand before you have a business. We were one of those. The branding, the naming, we worked really hard with a graphic design team to make this punch above its weight out of the gates. And what I'd say is, what you have to do, though, for this to be bigger than a brand is take the time to, check your ego at the door, right? You may have been established in a different career path, but now you're starting from scratch.
Right.
And make sure you get your hands really dirty. You cannot outsource the selling proposition of your product. You need to be on the front lines, hearing the feedback, understanding what works, what doesn't.
Ruby from Noah from Ruby was on. I mean, that guy's demos every week. Everyone on his team has to demo every single week. So.
Exactly. The product does not move itself. Once it's on shelf, that's just the beginning.
Yep. Right.
There is a whole, not just storytelling, but there is an entire ecosystem that I needed to familiarize myself with. I'm sure Alan did too. And you're still learning. It's but it is just opening up the pathways of like learning a new industry. As daunting as it is to start from zero all over again, it's like every day is just like an amazing choose your own adventure.
Yeah. Who was your first retail account?
Court Street Grocers, Bleecker and LaGuardia.
Okay.
Incredible. They still carry us. They have an amazing sandwich, the number 13, the clean turkey. It's the best sandwich.
Yes, it is.
These guys are just amazing. I went there because it was my corner sandwich shop, and also they had like some hack where they also carried a craft brewery out of Brooklyn that had no retail presence beyond the brewery. It was called Other Half, which I come back to. We did a collab with them. But so I was just like, this place is the best. And they had like Zapp's potato chips and then a whole bunch of awesome sandwiches. And I was like, if I could get placement here, that's it. I'll be happy.
Right. Yeah.
And I dropped off a couple cases, samples, whatever, and they were the first to come back and
That's
say, we
awesome.
want some. And I was like, okay, let me
Amazing.
figure out a price for this.
Do you remember yours?
It was Yowie in Philadelphia. It was again before we launched. We had 2 accidental sales before we launched. One was to a restaurant, Suerte, in Austin, that Andrew and I were just eating at.
Andrew Mitchell?
No, Andrew Bennon, Andrew, my partner.
Andrew comes in later, right?
Andrew comes in later, yep. We're visiting Austin, and we were told we had to go to Suerte, and it was a Monday night. We were waiting an hour for a table, and they have an open kitchen, so Andrew and I were just watching the kitchen work its magic and drooling over everything. And
Right.
one of the sous chefs was just like, "What are you guys doing?" And we were like, "Tell us what to order. We want to know your full lineup if you're here." And he laid out the whole game plan for us to order. And then at the end, he was like, "What do you guys do?" We're like, "Oh, we've got an olive oil brand we're launching soon." We gave him a bottle, and he called us the next day and said, "We want to buy this. This is amazing. How much is it?" And we told him the price, and he's like, "This is better than what we buy, and this is cheaper than what we buy." And that was our first $250 that we shipped him, a big 5-liter jug of drizzle. And then a couple weeks later, Shannon from Yowie, which is a really amazing boutique in Philadelphia, called us. She saw us on Snack Shots or Thing Testing.
Yeah,
One of the
We're moving in with thing testing.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So one of the outlets that was like covering our launch, and she was like, "Do you have anything to ship me?" And I was like, "Look, this is being hand filled. Like
Yeah.
we have a dozen samples left from what we were shipping to influencers. It was right around Christmas time, so we're like, all right, I'll ship it to you." And we shipped her in, I think it was like December 20th. She called us the next day and was like, "It's sold out. Do you have any more?" Okay, and we shipped her literally our last influencer bottles that we had that we were planning for our launch. She called me the next day and said, "It's sold out." I was like, "Oh shit, we're on
time
it."
to
That
move.
was
I like how you were debating. You're like, influencer bottles
Yep.
or a sale. It's like, you know what? Let's just do the sale. Let's just sell this.
do the sale, and it was like the ultimate validation that someone who doesn't know this brand is willing to like pick it up, read the label, and actually purchase it. And
Totally.
give it a try.
Powerful.
Has
So-
it changed much since launch?
A couple of details on the label. You know, we asked Shannon and we asked Catherine from Big Night, what's the feedback? Like when people are in the store, are they picking it up? Have they seen it before? Like what does someone who has never heard of the brand ask when they're looking at it? And they're always telling us people are confused why the small bottle is more expensive than the big bottle. So we did some really small label updates right before it was hitting the shelves at Whole Foods and other retailers to try and make it a little bit more intuitive and self-explanatory. But that's, you know, it's an amazing thing to have a relationship with a retailer who is on the floor every day interacting with customers, and you really have to take that feedback and apply it if you're going to try and do things at a bigger scale.
When you guys were building your respective brands, were there specific brands you looked to for inspiration? I know Magic Spoon probably had some influence, but I'm curious if there was anyone, like maybe Imperfect Produce. Did you aspire to be or take inspiration from any of those brands at the time?
Yeah, you know, I really started this in 2017, so it was less about some of the brands that have come on the scene lately and more at the time. There was no more successful platform brand in natural than Kind.
Okay.
It helped that we rhymed. So, kind of a happy accident. I actually met Daniel Lubetzky, the founder of Kind, before Shark Tank fame at the Fancy Food Show. And
I saw him at Expo.
Yeah, came over to our booth. This was in
Great
2018. Great guy, absolute inspiration. And again, like Kind Bar, they changed the game. And what I loved was how he did build a platform. It really wasn't Kind Bar, it was Kind.
Right.
And everything was like captured in the name and the vibe, and I wanted that to be real and authentic with what we were doing. So in a very small way, I'd say that was inspiration. But you know, the brands like Kind and Chobani, a little bit later, Kodiak Cakes, I mean, they're just like platform brands that built great brands and great businesses.
Chobani to me is a big hero brand. I thought that they did for yogurt exactly what we're trying to do for olive oil. They're saying Greek yogurt is amazing. Yogurt is healthy. Like yogurt is one of the like key elements to, you know, Mediterranean food. Dannon, you know, blueberry bullshit flavored with tons of added sugar isn't the yogurt that is healthy and good. The same way that we're saying olive oil is amazing, it's healthy, it's the thing that you need. Like XYZ, I'm not naming any names, but like this blended 3-year-old oil that's from 5 different countries is not the healthy olive oil that they're consuming in Italy and Spain and Turkey and all of these places where they live to 100 and are super slim and tan and attractive. The other brands to me are Casper. I thought that we really wanted to simplify what can be a confusing and overwhelming category. If you walk into a supermarket and stand in front of an olive oil set, there's 50 brands. One is $8, one is $40. This one's from Argentina, this one's from Spain, this one's from Italy.
It's like wine.
It's exactly like wine. It's confusing. What am I supposed to buy? Like, how could one product have an $8 version and a $40 version? So we really wanted to simplify it into, these are the 2 things that you need. Just make this decision of Graza, and that's the only decision that you need to make in olive oil. And
can we turn this into wine form factor next? It's a lot of commonalities.
It hasn't.
It's
nice distribution, nice method of
It's
consumption.
on the long list of what should we do next.
I'll take a Magnum.
It's on the list of what should we do next. Attaboy. You just added
Good.
35 days to your
actually
life.
fire.
Not surprising.
Let's just get wine in this bitch. We'll be all good.
It's coming.
Because it has that issue. Like I go to wine shops. I'm like, this one's like $1 million. This one's like $6.
We've talked about it. There was actually I think there were 800.
Good April Fools.
There were 800 bottles of wine ready to go with Graza branding on it out of Spain. That we just we couldn't figure out the licensing and the distribution. We wanted to sell it on our site, and it's just complicated. A lot more complicated to do than oil.
Fruit is tough too. I mean, fruit is taming Mother Nature and trying to standardize something that varies season to season, crop to crop. Is a fool's errand. So it's kind of why we embrace, the variations in a natural product. You kind of have to deal with whatever the harvest has given you, and you make it work. But I think
that's an asset these days. I think people are finally realizing that agricultural products change over time. They change season to season. Like if anything is consistent, it's because it's loaded with salt or it's just artificially flavored.
You're so right about that.
And it's flipped, right? Because there used to be more trust if a product was homogeneous and looked consistent from batch to batch, and now it's tremendous distrust because it's obvious that would be heavily processed to get that way. And it was happening in fruit snacks where you would have every single pineapple or apple ring would be A, stripped of the most nutritious part, the rind, and B, pumped full of sulfites for better color and added sugar for, consistent sweetness. And it was sort of like, this is just candy, let's not call this fruit. And we're hooking kids on something that's really crap for them. So.
So, you mean to tell me that I can integrate my shop with you in less than a minute? You store all my inventory across your 50-plus fulfillment centers in the US, Canada, UK, Europe, and Australia, and then fulfill all of my orders globally with over a 99% order accuracy rate?
That's right. We do that for over 7,000 brands today.
And you can do that for all my D2C, B2B, and Amazon orders?
Yep.
And when my next TikTok video goes viral or during the holiday rush, you can grow with me forever?
Yes, again.
Dang. That's the ship, Bob.
Check out ShipBob at shipbob.com to unlock your fulfillment provider that acts as your personal chief supply chain officer.
All right, so I want to get into stop 2, which is going to be our brand-specific questions. And Alan, I wanted to go back to you here and talk about Graza's launch and go-to-market. It's one that was very well received, and I mean, you sort of teed it up a little bit with how quickly adoption was in the beginning, but there was an influencer strategy. I mean, it went crazy on social. So what went into all that pre-planning? Is that something you expected to happen? And how did you just think about going to market with a new product?
Sure. I mean, nothing. Of course, this is how we expected it to happen. Like, we're going to send some bottles to some people, and hopefully a few of them post about it, and people will respond to it. But the scale of which it happened and the speed at which it happened, I mean, we would be lying if we said this was all really, planned out and executed according to what we thought. But
and how did you like figure out what would be the strategy that you sent? How many bottles? Like, who did you pick who to send it to?
We had a party in November where we brought some friends and our wives to our office late one night and ordered some pizzas, and Andrew had flown from Spain to New York with liters, I think like 400 liters of oil in his carry-on suitcases, and
Is that legal? Not in the carry-on.
Each one was
The
in a
check
less
bag.
than 3 ounce vial.
For personal consumption, it's legal. And he just said, Spain has great olive oil. This is all for me.
Right.
And we had some bottles from our supplier. We didn't have the factory ready yet to put oil into bottles, so we were hand pouring bottles and labeling them and induction sealing them. And we knew that we wanted to seed this out to as many people as possible. So I think we probably hand filled and shipped close to 1,000 influencer packages and media packages before we launched. And we knew two things. We knew that the quality, when people got it, if they followed the instructions, we were handwriting notes and everything. Please, open the bottle, smell it, pour it into a cup, look at the color, taste it, do this with something else that you have. We know that our product is better quality than what's out there, especially what's out there at this price point. So we knew that if people tried it, they would love it. The other thing we knew was that our bottle really stands out, and that all of these people are making a ton of food content. They're using olive oil in a lot of them. Even if they didn't post about Graza, we knew that eventually one day our little green nozzles would show up in their videos one way or another.
Yeah.
And that was really the launch plan. It was get it into as many hands as possible.
How'd you select the influencers? Was it all food specific influencers?
So Kendall, who does all of our social, whenever she gets sick, she is the most effective worker ever. She gets sick. You can tell when she's sick because our Instagram DMs just have 300 outbound messages to
oh my God.
The smallest influencers, but also to Guy Fieri and Barack Obama and Molly Baz. And we just learned to shoot our shots. We message everyone, do you want to try our olive oil?
Yeah.
And so many people respond.
Yeah.
Even when we were known, even when we had 1,000 followers who were all of our friends, people were responding to our cold outreach, and we were just sending packages and hoping for the best.
Yeah. Were there any particular standouts that you viscerally recall, as it started to come together and you got the posts?
I mean, Molly Baz changed Graza.
And who's Molly?
Molly is an ex Bon Appetit.
Okay.
Food developer and recipe developer. She launched a cookbook that was a New York Times bestseller. She has one of the strongest followings on social media of any food creators, and her food's really fucking dope. It's really, really good. We sent her a message that got read and then left on read for a long time, and then sick Kendall, I think, DM'd her again 3 days before we launched, and she responded with an address, and I wrote out a really heartfelt message and sent her the box. And I think the day after launch day, she posted that Graza's about to change the game in olive oil, and our sales and traffic went insane. And an hour later, Monica from Whole Foods, our buyer, DM'd us and said,
amazing.
Are you interested in working with Whole Foods? And we're like, yes, Monica, we are very interested in working with Whole Foods.
You have her picture up back in the office.
So,
we were waiting.
We have
for
a
you.
shrine.
We talk about it. Where would we be if she didn't post on the second day?
we had a lot of those.
Would we be in Whole Foods right now? How long would it have taken to build that relationship? I was coming in as the retail expert. I was like, I'll get us into this and this.
Yeah, you look great at this.
No fucking
at this
idea.
point, you're looking really good.
I'm looking very, very smart and have actually done very little.
We're right in front of it.
There we go.
And so, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, you had an experience with Whole Foods, and I sort of want to talk about the step back, but something that you were able to overcome as you so just talk us through the evolution of your relationship with that organization.
Yeah, I know this one really well behind us. I would self-distribute the Whole Foods in and around New York City that we were lucky enough to get on shelf. Even ones we weren't, I tried to force my way in.
Right.
Look, when you're starting out, there's no greater incubation lab for a product that's trying to do something different, change the game with better ingredients and a more sustainable focus than Whole Foods. And for me, I love nothing more than walking a Whole Foods. I could do that much to my wife and kids, scornful looks. I love walking a museum of food. It's
Right.
endless fun. And so my personal experience was the trade shows were really the vehicle that got Rind on the map. And I firmly believe in when other entrepreneurs in the industry ask, like, what do you advise? What do you recommend? I feel like the last 2 years of COVID were really difficult because they didn't have that in-person connection to a physical product. So we had that initial start from the Summer Fancy Food Show in 2018. I would run from my office job in Midtown Manhattan to the Javits Center to man the booth. It was exhilarating. And it was at that show that I met our Whole Foods buyer for their 365 concept at the time, which was like their kind of Trader Joe's killer.
Right.
So it wasn't their private label brand, it was their
Right,
retail
right,
brand,
right,
365. They had 12 of these stores, and the buyer loved our product, in particular the dried persimmon. And he said, next thing I know, he said, can you ship direct to stores? Like, we weren't even in the UNFI system. We were kind of like off the grid.
Right.
And one of those stores was in Fort Greene, Brooklyn, which I would go and deliver and figure out loading docks. And I became best friends with all the receiving guys in the back. And the other one was this one. This wasn't a 365, but this one I finagled my way onto shelf as well. And I used to go in around the other side with like a hand
this
cart.
Store?
Oh yeah.
This store, like the one right here?
This store right here. I'd
Oh,
go
man.
in. I'd go
Good
in.
job,
on,
team.
Yeah.
I'd go in on it was like 24th Street actually. So there was like a separate entrance. Maybe it was 25th. And the receiving guys. I just have like the most amateur looking paperwork, and I'd be like, I'm here dropping off a brand rep with Rind or whatever. They're like, there's no spot for you on shelf. I'm like, no, I think we're next to these guys. This is kind of you fake it till you make it.
Right.
But fast forward, we're now in Whole Foods Global, which is really exciting, which means we're in all stores. It says global. I don't know that we're in the Kensington High Street store in London, but that'd be dope. We are in some Canadian stores, but an incredible organization with a real merchandising backbone.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that has been engineered out of the grocery industry, which is the magic. And there is an art to merchandising and giving brands that are doing something totally different a audience and a platform. And so incredibly grateful for, the first Whole Foods placements that we had.
So, Alan, I want to talk about the novel nature of Graza. I think there's a lot that's unique about the form factor. And at this point, it's sort of become iconic. So, talk us through, I guess, how you were thinking of disrupting the space and trying to find a way to stand out on the shelf.
Yeah. So there's two parts to that. The bottle is what we're famous for. The bottle is what stands out. The bottle is the reason that we're so recognized on social media and on shelf.
Right.
And that came from, kitchens. That came from restaurant kitchens. Every single restaurant kitchen you've ever been to takes their olive oil from a big plastic jug and pours it into a smaller plastic squeeze
I
bottle.
do the same. So I don't do it over a squeeze bottle. I had one of those like glass.
The glass with
things.
the spout.
Yeah. But in the restaurant industry, you're saying the chefs.
The chefs use squeeze
You
bottles.
see it in the street meat carts too. They got the
Everyone who is cooking at scale does this.
Got it.
With not only just olive oil, with all of their oils and a lot of their sauces.
Right.
Because it's just so precise, it's easy to use, it's clean, it's lightweight, and we realized that was just a huge opportunity to be different on this shelf of sameness.
Right.
Every single bottle on that shelf is in a dark green plastic or glass, picture of a farm, picture of an old 200-year-old Italian guy
Right.
on the front, and we want to bring just a more modern brand with a functional bottle to the market. And then the other thing in disrupting it was truly just offering this quality at this price point. We're learning.
How are you able to pull that off? It's not like you got to think someone's tried to pull off that level of quality at that price point.
I think that people have tried to pull it off, but they haven't succeeded because everyone has always put location as the main driver of their brand, right? This is from this farm in this country with this varietal, and that's just not enough to make people change their minds and try something new. We're really, really proud of the quality that we're putting in this bottle and where it comes from, but it's really not too, doesn't take up much space on our actual bottle. What we're promising is that it's fresh, it's from one place, it's from one farm, it's unblended, it's from the most recent harvest.
Right.
It's from a place that produces by far the most olive oil in the world, but we're not putting that front and center. And our supplier is shocked by us too. He said every year some Americans come and they're like, we're gonna make Spanish olive oil a thing. And Spain produces 50 to 60% of the world's olive oil every year, but they're just really shitty at marketing.
Right.
Everyone thinks that Italy makes all the olive oil and the best olive oil.
Right.
Italy makes amazing olive oil. They make between 7 and 9% of the world's olive oil every year, and
That's it?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and it's incredible what they do make, if it's fresh, if it's
synonymous with
unblended.
Italy.
But the Italy brand is what is taking up 90% of the shelf space.
Yeah.
But none of that product is actually coming from Italy, or very little of it is blended in from Italy. And so bringing a new, fun brand with this quality is what's making it move so quickly.
Yeah, it's awesome. So Matt, I want to turn it back over to you here, and you're too humble, so I'll do it for you. But Rind was recently named to Fast Company's most innovative companies list, alongside NASA. And
Yes,
so
you're
I
welcome.
want to talk. I want to talk about, when you were building the business. I don't know, just like, how did you end up there? Did you ever expect to end up there? And I think what I'm angling towards, I want to talk about the impact that's core to your business.
Yeah. It was a surprise to us to be named a most innovative company alongside some very, very innovative companies, aerospace,
They were listed
engineering.
next to you, right?
Yeah, they were listed next to dried fruit. Look, removing water from fruit is not innovative in and of itself. I think what we have done differently is similar to a lot of successful pathways for consumer products, which is don't overthink it, but make sure you have a point of difference. And if you don't, you will always be at risk of being a private label or a commodity. If you want to build something branded, make sure there is a unique angle to your story. Graza is known for premium liquid in a unique form factor that was doing something different than anyone else, 90+% on shelf. With Rind, the peel of the fruit, which is nature's most nutrient-dense layer, was being treated as a byproduct. It was a waste product. And so it would be discarded in the name of aesthetics or uniformity, when you would never waste the most, potent, nutritious part of anything.
Right.
So we elevated that. We took the humble peel and made it our hero, and it made all the difference. And it was an intuitive concept that, if that in and of itself is considered innovative, just by changing the conversation around a largely commodity private label category and saying there's a different way of doing things. Our go-to-market strategy is different, our branding is different, our focus on sustainability is different, where no one had even taken the time to quantify the impact of edible peels and the waste that they represent unnecessarily on the food system.
Right.
But it's an incredible number. It's 10 billion pounds,
Right.
which is almost 10% of total food waste, is overripe produce and discarded peels. And so what if we could make the end of one supply chain the beginning of another? And that was the idea. And that's why, we are far more innovative than NASA.
Yeah. And a million pounds of edible fruit waste in 2022.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And so Matt, you talk a lot about authenticity, and I think having a stance and trying to do things differently. Alan, I want to get back to you and talk about the apology note. And I know it's just like a moment in time, but I do think it speaks to something more about brand building in the modern era, because of, humanizing the brand, not making it feel like it's some people in a tower and like amorphous Fortune 500 company trying to be exploitive. And something that was really interesting, we'll talk about the retail story later, but Kim Pham from Omsom was on here, and we were talking about retail and like how they had to rebuild their business, and they made one subtle tweak. They put the picture of her and her sister on the packaging, and that made all the difference because people could understand the authenticity and like it humanized the product in a way that it hasn't before. So I'd love for you to just share the apology note story and why it was so well received.
Sure. I mean, it was a hell of a fourth quarter for us in the best way possible, right? Our growth was explosive. We had just turned on paid ads in October, which really started our volume going up. We had our first sale in November, which doubled that volume. We were on, I think, like 300 to 400 gift guides in December, which doubled that volume again. And we were just starting to ship Whole Foods Global.
No one puts branded trucks on the gift guides. Maybe I'll have to scale up the toy part of what we do.
You do. You can make the new Hess truck.
You're right,
it's the Agile truck with brands on it.
There you go.
Anyway, so, we were shipping at just a much higher volume than we had at any point in the company's history, and little things were going wrong. There was nothing catastrophic, but there were a ton of little things here. This bottle is dented. Our labels were flaking off. Like we were guaranteeing Christmas deliveries if you ordered by this date, which was a little bit earlier than other people, and we hit all of that. But so many people after the fact were just emailing that we ruined their Christmas because it was late. So just a ton of little things. And as you are, in the weeds, and I'm reading every single customer service letter, still to this day, it just starts to have a really, really negative effect. And Andrew was, not in the ops and not dealing with a lot of these problems, and just saw this weight on me, and he was like, "What's going on?" And I said, "I'm getting so much negative feedback for the first time." And we went through the list of problems, and we realized, okay, we have to make sure that we don't do these again, but let's also maybe communicate about it. And Andrew, if any of you have the pleasure of knowing him, he is a world-class texter. He is a professional text messenger.
What does that mean?
He just has his iMessage open and is having like 40 conversations at a time, and like the biggest conversation that you could ever have, while also like catching up with friends and checking in on babies, but also getting the CEO of Chipotle's phone number and texting him. Like, he's just a professional texter, and I've always encouraged him to take that approach of communication with our customers. And every time we've sent an email out from our founders at Graza.co address, we've gotten amazing responses. So we talked about it. We asked a bunch of our investors, these were our problems. Should we send an email out? We asked our PR firm. Everyone said, no, don't do it. I was like, Andrew, just send it. Like, if it feels right, write it and send it.
Right.
And I came in the next morning. He's like, I think I emailed 38,000 people, and we got 800 or 900 responses that were just like so complimentary and just lifted our spirits and lifted our warehouse's spirits and lifted our team spirits, and we shared them with everyone. And one of the recipients of that email happened to be a journalist. And he emailed us. It was right when Southwest had like fucked up everyone's holiday travel, and I think gave everyone like 2,500 bonus miles as an apology. And he was like, I want to write about this. There's a big difference between your ability to apologize for things that don't seemingly seem very, important, but you did it in a really unique way. Like, again, it was not proofread. There were, there were typos. Like, it was just Andrew texting.
Right.
38,000
Send another apology about the grammar.
And versus this like really, really corporate statement and, compensating people for it. We didn't compensate anyone. We were like, if you want to, here's like a discount code. And half of our responses said, I will not be using this discount code. It was really just authentic and a really important interaction that, I think at any point in our business, we need to keep up. And, I always encourage Andrew to communicate. If he feels it, like if his instinct is we have to say something, we should say something.
Yeah.
Like, doesn't matter what the experts say. We're where we are because we're just trusting our human instincts. We want to be...
I love this angle, if I can just build on it.
Yeah.
Like, I think what this does is it infuses a brand with soul and heart, right? And it sounds kind of hokey or whatever, but so many people just want a little bit of connection, and they want to know that their complaint, their experience, it's heard, and it's not filed away and has an immediate Zendesk auto response.
Totally.
Nothing against Zendesk. But I think at the earliest stages of brand building, and it gets harder as you grow, but
Totally.
the best companies, whether through their founders infusing the brand with the cultural charge or the whatever it is that drives it, we have the same philosophy. And
Right.
every single customer service email that goes to goes to me.
Right.
And it wasn't until this year that we hired like a CX,
Totally.
ace, because I wanted to know all of our blind spots, and I wanted all of them to be responded to by the CEO. And I just think that's really, really powerful. And it may not seem like the greatest and highest use of anyone's time, but it's the most important, because you're building a direct one-to-one with your most ardent power users.
Totally.
Or somebody who never was a fan and then becomes a super fan because of an amazing experience. That's take every moment out of your day to build it that way, and good things will come.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and Jake Carls was on the show earlier, and something that amazed me about his business, I was doing my thing where I send mocked up trucks to try and win business, just scrapping along. And instead of a like, hey, thanks, we sent it along to marketing, someone will reach out if interested, I got two audio notes. One was like 2.5 minutes, one was like 15 seconds. The first one was whoever was running social, like telling people from their team, come over, like come look at this. And you heard them like reacting, like, oh my God, that's so sick. And the second one was just like, hey, like I just want to say thank you. This like really brought some joy to our days. And I don't even care if we do business. I learned a lot from that experience about I'm now a fan of that brand because of how, I don't know, they just made me feel like authentic. Like there's people behind this brand, and I want to connect with you. And the other thing you talked about, like recovering gracefully. I'm a big psychology wonk, and something I learned that I thought was fascinating, and this probably speaks to why their apology thing works as well. And you can't do this repeatedly, but if someone when I was at McMaster-Carr, there was a huge CX, like customer service organization, and something that we learned was there's actual like proof in psychology and data on this. If someone has a bad experience with you, but you recover gracefully, the loyalty and outcome that they feel actually ends up higher than if you never made a mistake at all. Oh. And so there's we always had this mantra at McMaster about like, we're always going to try our best, but what matters most is when things go wrong, we recover gracefully, because you can win back and tie that customer to the brand if you do the right thing. So it's
one more point on this. I think the inclination is the opposite of most businesses, where it's whatever problems you have or mistakes you have, you do not want to bring them to the fore. You don't
Right.
want to be the spokesperson for them.
Hide it.
Exactly. You sort of hide it, which is probably the worst thing that you can do, and creates a sort of a terrible culture of like concealment suppression, versus bring it into the sun and show how you're building it, the mistakes you're making authentically. It's what could be more relatable than that? And Danny Meyer, in his book, he talked about the influence, I think it was his grandfather or his uncle had on him, about the companies, he's built the ultimate name in hospitality and food service, that the company that is ultimately the most successful isn't the one with the fewest problems. Every business is going to have a shit ton of problems. It's how you handle and address those problems along the way. And do you do it quickly? Do you do it consistently? Do you do it honestly? And it just sticks with me. It's like, you cannot pull off what we're trying to achieve and build brands in resonance with the consumer without screwing up a lot.
Yeah.
And it's how you almost make what would be a liability an asset, like a apology, or speak directly about, we screwed up, here's how we're going to make it better. I believe in that power of that comeback, and that win back can be super powerful.
But also, we have to make sure that we do everything that we said we were going to do.
Absolutely.
We can't apologize.
Trying to apologize
I think I tweeted about
Yeah.
that reality, and someone was like, "Can we exploit that?" And I was like, "I don't think it. I think if you keep screwing up, it doesn't. It starts to have diminishing marginal utility."
Expecting. Where's our first quarter apology?
Yeah.
Over 7,000 customers like Pet Lab, Chamberlain Coffee, Hero Cosmetics, Spikeball, Dossier, TB12, Pit Viper, 100 Thieves. Tens of millions of packages shipped every year. 50 plus fulfillment centers across the US, Canada, UK, Europe, and Australia. An app store with 50 plus integrations like Shopify, Amazon, NetSuite, and many more. Managed inventory distribution, D2C and B2B fulfillment capabilities, 99.96% of orders shipping on time, 99.95% order accuracy rate. Yep, we're talking about ShipHop again. We know picking a fulfillment partner or 3PL is not easy. And equally importantly, we know you never want to have to move or pick another one. That's why we partnered with ShipHop. From 0 to 100 million in sales, ShipHop has you covered.
Getting into stop 3 here, and I'm a little hungry, so I'm gonna, it's been a long route.
Let's
I'm
go.
gonna open some of these orange chips here.
Other side, terra nachos.
I'm sorry.
First of all, before you get in there, just smell.
Yeah, it smells awesome.
It's like an orange grip.
Yeah. Make sure my mic gets the crunch.
Let's get it. I mean, I could hear that in space.
Fire.
NASA called.
So NASA has called. This is better than astronaut ice cream.
They're so good.
I want one.
Yeah.
So
What are we eating? Give us the breakdown.
yeah. So look, this is it's a highly processed snack with one single ingredient: oranges, dried beautifully with the rind on, which has again the most potent vitamins and bioavailability of any part of the fruit. More vitamin C, more fiber, and yet it's one of the most commonly discarded food scraps. So it's a kick-ass snack, but a lot of what I think is working in our favor is that there is a charcuterie board movement. There is a subculture around craft cocktails
yeah.
where you elevate the garnish as much as the liquid. And I think people, at least when I would go out to a bar and have an amazing Negroni or old-fashioned, it was like a $15 drink because of the theater of this thing. And I was just crunching on this. I'm like, you got a bowl of this to go with this?
Right.
And I think it's an untapped area for us. But what I love about that is we're not looking to make a better fruit roll-up to target kids.
Right.
It's go after the cool moms and dads and surprise and delight them with flavors and tanginess that they haven't found in raisins.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's a good segue. So stop 3, brand intersection questions. I think my question to both of you is, neither of you are in new categories. Dried fruit has existed for a while, olive oil, we've talked about it. And so I really just want to think about what elements were you thinking of for people who might be, interested in starting a brand, like disrupting a long entrenched incumbent with novel products?
I'll start.
Go ahead.
Look, I think what's exciting about a category that is super sleepy is that a little kick in the pants can go a long way.
Right.
I think what was totally missing from the incumbents was any excitement, any sense of innovation beyond the same dried fruits, and worse, adding cheaper inputs to increase the weight of that fruit with cheaper components like sugar and preservatives.
Right.
So for us to come in preaching a story that was, let's go back to snacking at its roots, literally, and let's use fruits that are not the usual suspects. Everyone has had raisins and prunes and apricots.
I don't really like those. I do love these.
Exactly, because palates have changed.
Right.
My kids are growing up putting sriracha on everything. They'll put Graza on everything.
Right.
They'll put Szechuan chili crisp on everything. Their palates and taste buds don't want milk and Ovaltine and whatever. They want like supercharged flavor bomb.
Right.
Not that this is, but an orange and a bright citrus, they're not drinking OJ anymore.
Right.
Here they can crunch their OJ and use it as a vehicle the way you would a cracker or a chip, but far healthier. And I think it's just keeping up with taste preferences. And when your companies were being run by big conglomerates who just kept saying, let's just push out more raisins and prunes and figure out how to mush them together into a ball or a bar or a bite.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Right.
Like, that's not real innovation. That's just like squeezing as much margin as you can versus let's do something different. Let's focus around the power of the peel, and let's use fruits and flavors that people want, like watermelon and kiwi and peach and orange. So,
have you seen any of them sort of realize what's happening, like the shift in the movement and trying to?
We get this question so much, which is, why can't anyone else do this? Like single ingredient fruit. We have an increasing number of products that are a little more value added with spices and seasonings.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd argue and maybe Alan and I have a similar business in that respect,
Right.
Where it's like one ingredient, right? Anything in food can be reverse engineered, including Coca-Cola's trade secret, but it's very different to say, so there's no moat or barrier, arguably, to kind of anything in food. It's not to say there isn't IP, but
Right.
there's no true moat. So how do you build moat? Well, you do it through unique culture, through connections with consumers, with a vein of innovation where you're not afraid to take risks and shots, like an orange chip with chili lime seasoning that
Right.
none of the big guys would ever go into because it's not a proven market yet. You have to go out and prove there is a
build it.
market for what they believe to be niche, and therefore they're not going to take risks. They're not set up or incentivized to take risks,
Right.
which is why it's the story of the innovator's dilemma. I mean,
Totally.
it's why we, as just idea, take an idea, create a beta product, and excite the market and get real feedback real quickly and understand, okay, there was a bigger need here than we thought, and we're tapping into it.
Yeah. What about you?
I mean, for us, when it's a huge category that's sleepy, everyone is lazy. Everyone
Right.
is
Yep.
set. This is the way it is, and it takes a lot to disrupt that. It took a big brand moment. It took a really unique bottle, especially in the supply chain. The supply chain is just so established. It took a lot of work and effort and investment and tooling to get a premium olive oil producer to put that in a squeeze bottle.
Right.
Andrew says it's like going to Burgundy and asking them to put that wine into a squeeze bottle. You need someone to take a risk on you, but
Right.
the when people are just set in their ways, that's when there's the biggest opportunity, because while the consumer is set, whoever is making that product is trying to find ways to make it cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and that's usually just reducing quality.
Yeah.
And that's what's happened. I don't know if these brands that own 90% of the market were making a better quality product 20 or 30 years ago, but
Right.
what they're shipping today is just not something that anyone should be proud of, and because they are the legacy brands, they win the market. So it takes something extra. It takes the squeeze bottle and the fun branding and the characters and the oil with the spout to
Right.
to shake up something.
And the costumes.
And the costumes. And the
Did
costumes.
Kendall forward you my text of like, you've seen their
I've
costumes?
seen their costumes. They're fantastic.
I wanted to do the whole interview just wearing them.
costume?
Yeah.
I would have brought my pineapple
would you have
suit if
signed
you
up?
wanted to. Yeah, why not? I think we would have gotten a few more stares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Would've been hilarious,
you
actually.
need that loud moment
Yeah.
Yeah.
to get something better through. The reason that we are standing out is the bottle. The reason that we are growing and getting repeat purchases is because of the quality.
Right.
So you have to have something
I like
that's
Right.
fundamentally
A
better.
hook.
I like
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
Alan's saying, though, which is that like it's very easy when you're not in the trenches every day building, that it's like, oh, olive oil in a squeeze bottle, cool branding, fruit chips, with oranges instead of apple chips in a chip bag. Okay, it's easy, right? I can do that. We'll go do it,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So to this point about like laziness, and I think most, what you see in a store and the effort and work and grueling, storyline that had to bring that product to fruition is so daunting.
Right.
Where to even begin? That it's just so easy to say, if it's a good idea, someone else will have figured it out and done it.
Yeah, talk
But
is
that's
cheap.
that's like exactly like that's the reason why entrepreneurs are working on ideas every day that will be the next crop of amazing brands in there.
Yeah.
Because there's always an opening. There's
Totally.
always white space. It's incumbent on you to just
Outdoor
quit.
advertising is the oldest thing that's ever existed, right?
But you said, stop making excuses. I'm going to throw my hat into the ring with a point of difference,
Right.
and I'm going to, hell or high water, make this work.
Right, absolutely. So another thing that I thought was really interesting overlap of your businesses is supply chains. And I think something I sort of want to demystify for the audience is the complexities of building a company when there's just volatility and seasonality. And so, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts, Alan. and I don't know if it's informed your SKU development to a degree, Matt, of like, hey, like there's this rotational play that we've built around it. But I'd love to hear you guys both sort of speak on those complexities.
I mean,
Too much trauma?
We're both trying to tame Mother Nature.
Back to my brilliant timing of first graduating with a finance degree in 2009. We launched an olive oil business, and in our first full year of business, there was the worst harvest in Spain in
was that the
400 years.
Was that the giant fire thing?
No, nothing to do with fire. It was just dry. It didn't rain last year. Basically, the rain in the first half of the year determines how the harvest is going to be. The harvest in Spain is October through January or February.
Right.
And right now we're just like praying for rain. If it rains a lot by June 1, it's going to be a great harvest. If it rains a little bit, it's going to be an okay harvest. We've already gotten more rain than last year at this time. So, but our first year was last year. Our first full year is this year, and our cost of goods has almost doubled on one of the products, and there's just nothing that we can do about it,
right.
Other than cheapen the product or buy a shittier product or buy old product, but that's just not what we're going to do. And at this point in the business, we can't raise prices. We don't want to raise prices. We want to lower prices. We want to make this quality as accessible as possible. We think that is how we're going to win the market. It's not in Whole Foods. If we can do this in Walmart, then Graza is making an impact on people's health and on the country. But it's very difficult.
Yeah,
it's very, very difficult.
And so how do you even deal with that? I mean, is you just in a good position where velocity can sort of take down some of those elements for the moment?
Yeah, you do what you can. Luckily we made a really, really good buy on Drizzle this year. We signed that contract for the Drizzle futures in, I think, March or April of last year, and before the signs of the bad harvest were out there. So right now Drizzle is doing a lot of the heavy lifting on our internal margins, and Sizzle is almost a break-even product. So you just have to deal with it.
Right.
Businesses being on your toes and reacting and seeing what problems are coming tomorrow, but also 3 months and 6 months and a year down the line. And
future apology notes. So you got to get it lined up.
It's so interesting. You have futures.
No, look. I think we both deal with a product that is shaped by weather and conditions that are out of everyone's control.
Redo it.
Yeah. Yes, so we both work
trucks. They get a lot of attention.
With Rind and with Graza, we both work with products and raw materials that you can't predict weather patterns, and a lot of the growing conditions are out of our control, and we don't compromise on quality. So we really are reliant on a certain type of product, and if we're given dealt a bad hand, we have to really figure out ways to either diversify the business or mitigate the threat. I think one thing that's unique back to competitive advantage, that right there is hard to do, right? So by design, it sort of limits players from coming into your business, because dealing with unpredictable weather patterns on your main core product is a really challenging start.
Right.
When you get it right, you can really capture magic. With fruit, you can chase the sun, and you can go around and source what you source for this fruit from this region. You can chase and continue to source that throughout the year from other regions, but they're going to be different. It's going to be a highly variable product, but that's part of the game.
Yeah, interesting.
To just believe in the law of averages.
Yeah, I like that. Mean reversion.
Reversion to the mean.
Yeah, it's true.
The next question I have for you guys is really around the complexities and challenges of supporting retail. They're both, at this point, integral to your respective brands. So how have you sort of had to, maybe reinvent the business to handle what is sort of a different operating model than direct to consumer? And Matt, did you ever do D2C, or did you just
No, we did. We started with D2C.
Just for quick iteration and feedback?
Yeah.
Got it.
Exactly. Look, retail is where we have decided to build our business and our profit center around, is that it's going to be a high volume wholesale business.
Right.
While it's amazing to be on Amazon and available through our own website, some snacks are just, snacking in general, in my experience, hasn't been found a way to be as sticky with subscription the way something ritualistic like soda or
olive oil.
coffee or olive oil. Exactly. There you go. So people have a lot of choice in snack. You can have
Right.
a bag of pretzels, some cookies, fresh fruit, dried fruit, and everything in between. So the way we're really going to build this business is take over more and more snacking sets within top tier grocery. And what I love is that landscape is changing, right? And COVID accelerated that to a great degree, is that it gave rise to all these alt channels, all these alt retailers, like subscription box, like online marketplaces like Thrive, and B2B marketplaces like Fair.
Right.
And it's really sort of created points of discovery like never before for your product that are frankly more curated, in some ways less competitive, with less slotting fees that
right.
make retail such a difficult and historically low margin business to compete in. I think the best way we approach it is how can you make your category manager, your buyer, look really good, right?
Do their homework.
Exactly. Don't come to them and say, I have the greatest thing since sliced bread. You have to carry my product. Here's why. Don't sell them on that. Say, what are you missing in your set? What's working? What's not? We can come up or collaborate together. Again, just like take time and be different than probably every other person that's come in to pitch their wares that week, and say, how can we make you look really good with our suite of products and focus on this unique take of fruit?
Right. How about you, Alan? Obviously,
mean,
a lot more retail.
A lot more retail. I mean, I'm getting a crash course in supermarket and CPG retail
Right.
every day as
Much
we go.
different than Jack's?
Much different, yeah, much different. We would get a purchase order from retailer XYZ saying, ship me this style, this many units of it, these sizes in 6 months.
Right.
This is review periods, resets,
Right.
but then also when you have an exciting brand, people calling you saying, what can we do to move things around? How can we get you in here faster? And you need to make the right decisions.
Right.
You know, if someone is going to reset you, but they're saying, oh, I have one space for sizzle on the top left shelf and one place for drizzle on the bottom right shelf, like, we're not going to do that.
Right.
So making the right decisions for us is
not
really
chase
important.
the shiny object.
And we have to build the data story. We have to show the retailers that we're not in, hey, look what we're bringing. We're bringing a younger consumer, we're bringing a new consumer, we're raising the average basket size because no other brand is getting people to buy 2 different olive oils in one shot. So we kind of have to build the story as we go. You know, it's not a different product, it's not a different set. Like, everyone on that shelf is selling the same thing, olive oil.
Right.
Yeah.
What can we do that's different? The average velocities, it's a very sleepy category.
Yeah.
If you sell, the average is 0.7. So if you sell 1, you're above average. If you sell 2 bottles a week per store,
You're lighting
you're a fucking
something.
hero. You know?
Really?
So, yeah. It's,
Damn.
True in snack too.
Yeah.
It's unreal. I mean, you just think of the foot traffic of an average grocer, you would think it'd be a huge number, but by and large, 1.5 to 2 units per store per week per SKU, that's kind of the bogey.
Right.
And so for us, we really have to stand out by letting the product and the response from the consumer do the talking. And I think thankfully we're both blessed where we have that.
Right.
But it took a lot to that's why your statement and how you sit confidently on shelf has to also be different. Form factor is a big underappreciated, aspect of that.
Yeah.
Putting a thin cut fruit chip not in a stand-up pouch, but in a chip where you'd have fried potatoes come out of, so that you can be merched next to salty, is no one was doing that in Fruitland. They were
Right.
saying, oh, just put me near the craisins.
Right.
And so where you live, the real estate you choose is as a much part of the innovation as the product itself.
Yep.
What's on the horizon for your respective brands? What do you want these brands to be when you look back and sort of their legacy in the space?
Look, I think I started this company when I was closer to my 40s than my 20s, and so I'm doing this at a different point in my career where, I expect to have lots of reinventions and trying new things along the way. But this in particular is something that I'm doing not to flip, but to build. My kids are involved in the business. My family I've taken along on this journey. It is this selfish endeavor in many ways, and so I'm building this with them.
Right.
And therefore I'd want this to endure. And the way I approach that is build something bigger than just a product.
Right.
Right? And so to me, how can we get Rind to stand for something, to be, infuse the brand with values and a way we do things such that we won't innovate here, but we will innovate here. And we're really planting a flag around better for you, which is table stakes, right? You have to create a snack that has some functional benefit. The Rind delivers that in spades. But then it's sort of, how do you make a dent around being a good steward in your sourcing practices, in your fair trade practices? So sustainability, using the whole fruit, letting nothing go to waste, and doing that in something bigger than just a single category like fruit. Lots of things have rinds, right? Root vegetables are more nutritious at sweet potato skins. Legumes, nuts, Marcona almonds roasted in their skins. Anything that has an additional layer of protection during the growing season is going to be fortified with more nutrients naturally. That's what we want to go after, and that's the idea behind Rind, not as just a pure fruit snack company, but a bigger play.
Awesome.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Good luck following that.
Yeah, thanks.
Graza, you can do the same thing.
I mean, Graza, couple things. We want to keep things as simple as possible for as long as possible. We think there's a long way we can go with these two SKUs and these oils. We really want to improve the quality of olive oil in this country because it has so many health benefits. If people start using this instead of an oil that's 2 or 3 years old, there's more polyphenols, there's more omega-3s, there's just more health in a fresh product. And we're showing that is doable. We're not buying from, a blender, just like most other brands are doing. So we want to really improve the quality of product at scale here.
Right.
That turns into being one of the largest importers of olive oil in the country. That's where we think we can go and where we hope we can go. And at the same time, we want to build trust. We're trying to build trust with customers. We showed it with olive oil. Trust us. What you're buying is not real good extra virgin olive oil. This is.
Right.
We think we're starting to get some of that. We want to build trust with retailers. When we say, hey, trust us, people will buy a product with our brand name on it. So before we launch another product, which every day we get asked, what's next, what's next, what's next? We're really trying to keep it focused. We built this from day one to be as scalable through retail, through our website, wherever you want to buy Graza. Like, our back end is super, super simple and streamlined, and we can take these two products a very long way. So before we answer what's next, which, we have a whole list of what could be next. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
We really don't know yet, but I think we'll have an aha moment one of these days that this is right, to build on the trust that we've built with these two products.
Awesome.
We sold $6 million our first year and did $80 million in sales last year. That's what the COO of Adventure Challenge, a longtime customer of ShipBob's, shared with ShipBob the other day. The pace of growth for Adventure Challenge has been insane, but it wasn't all positive. It started with a failed crowdfunding project. Then investors assured them that their business would fail. They raised $0 in outside capital. And it somehow only took a few years to hit $80 million in sales. They started off fulfilling all orders themselves. They'd have U-Hauls packed with thousands of products, making endless trips from their storage unit to the post office. It was not scalable. It was definitely hurting their growth. It definitely wasn't fun. That's when ShipBob started their partnership with Adventure Challenge. By being able to focus on growing the business and product development, sales took off like a rocket ship. While Adventure Challenge initially focused on D2C sales, their popularity started driving other conversations. They started to stock several hundred smaller boutiques across the country, then Francesca's, then Kohl's. And while they're based in California and most of their customers are in the US, the word of mouth and viral videos on TikTok and Instagram started driving demand around the world. So then they started filling orders out of Canada, and then the UK, and now Australia. From a failed Kickstarter and getting $0 in outside investment on day one to over $80 million in revenue, Adventure Challenge has defied the odds and built a global powerhouse brand alongside their partnership with ShipBob, who's there to help you completely unlock your brand's growth. Read the entire story at shipbob.com/adventure-challenge.
We're getting a stop 4 here. It's a game called The Hot Box, aptly named for the set design here. And so the Hot Box is essentially sort of like the hot seat, but it's a this or that style question game. So I'm essentially going to ask you A or B, and you respond as quickly as you can without thinking about it, what you identify more with. So, Alan, I'll have you respond first.
Okay.
I'll have you respond second, okay?
Okay.
You guys ready?
Ready?
Yeah, let's
Cool.
do it.
All right, first question, cold plunge or hot tub?
Hot tub, then cold plunge.
Cold plunge.
Beach house or ski house?
Beach house.
Beach house.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Lots of it.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Sunset.
D2C or DTC?
Don't know what the hell you're talking about.
DTC.
DTC?
Oh.
Or the number or the letter?
That says it all. DTC.
Never thought of that.
Neat or messy?
Neat.
Messy as hell.
Corgi or golden retriever?
Golden retriever. Comet. Shout out my golden retriever.
I'll go with
I gotta get a cut
I'll
scene,
shout
a
out.
cut scene to him there.
I'll shout out Alan's golden retriever too.
All right, cool. Winter or summer?
Summer.
Summer.
Tennis or golf?
Right now, tennis, but I miss golf. I kind of had to retire with a new business and a baby.
Basketball.
Pineapple pizza or candy corn?
Oh, pass on both.
Oh, you gotta pick one.
Pineapple pizza, because I can take the pineapple off.
I mean, it's fruit on a pizza. I'm gonna go with that.
All right, we'll go with that.
I'll put a Rind pineapple chip on, on my slice.
collab waiting to happen.
Let's do it.
Live music or DJ?
God, neither for me also.
Live
You
music.
have to pick. You don't like music?
No, not really.
This guy a robot? Chat GPT over here.
Live in space or live underwater?
Jeez, where are you getting these
I
questions?
don't know who wrote the
Don't
kill the
underwater.
messenger.
I'll go with space.
Yeah.
All right, fight one horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses?
One more time.
Fight one horse-sized duck or 1,000 duck-sized horses.
Size duck or 1,000 horse.
Duck-sized horses,
duck-sized
yeah.
Horses. One horse-sized duck.
Yeah, just for the sheer, I'd like to see one horse-sized duck.
Yeah.
I think I can reason with him or her.
Right, you can
Like,
negotiate out
don't
of that.
eat me. Let's just talk about this.
Sweet snacks or salty snacks?
Salty.
Sweet.
Call, text, audio notes.
Text.
Text.
Reading or writing?
Reading.
Writing.
Work on-site or work remote?
On-site all day. I can't work remote.
Not a question. On-site 24/7.
Do laundry or do the dishes?
Oh, I love doing the dishes.
All right.
I will definitely choose do the dishes.
Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok.
My Instagram screen time is way too high and everything else is way too low.
I'll go with LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, you're
Dancing.
LinkedIn famous.
It's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Dancing or people watching?
People watching.
Yeah, I'll go with
especially
that.
from a glass truck.
Totally.
Cocktails or beers?
Cocktail.
Beers.
Plug it.
We did the greatest collab of all time, where we made a IPA out of dried persimmon and dried oranges. The uglier the fruit, the better. It was sweet in the mash, and then they conditioned it on top of these orange chips, and it was a award-winning beer from my good friends at Other Half. We've done it 2 years in a row now,
Yeah.
and of course we're going to keep doing this.
I got to try it at Andrea's Snack Shot event.
Yes, you did.
Which also had Grala Avo and Holodaddy.
yeah.
As the collab. A lot of good
Yeah.
collabs that day.
Great.
All right. Feel too hot or feel too cold?
I run hot. I'm always hot and
Yeah.
sweaty.
I'm told I run
Yeah.
hot too.
Yeah.
So do you want to be too cold or you want to be too
No,
hot?
I
like it.
Oh, is this preference or
Yeah.
reality?
Yeah, I don't know,
Oh,
whatever.
prefer-
Next.
Yeah.
You get one animal to protect you against zombies, gorilla or grizzly bear?
Oh, love a gorilla.
I look with grizzly.
All right.
I have to just do some damage.
I can't wait to stitch these all up with people's responses. Give up bread or give up cheese?
These are the real ball-busting questions.
I
I
know.
knew this was going to be like 60 minutes. Give up cheese.
Yeah, I would give up bread. I feel like you can make some good gluten-free substitute.
Ooh,
but you
all
can't
right.
screw it up with cheese.
Air guitar or air drums?
Air drums.
Guitar.
Board games or video games?
Board games.
Video games.
$50 on red or black?
Black.
Red.
Start early, leave late.
Oh, right. I'm supposed to go first. Both.
Pick one.
Leave late. I'm not a morning person.
Yeah, leave late.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
Fiction.
Where do you want to go next, Europe or Asia?
Asia.
Asia.
Rich and famous or rich and anonymous?
Anonymous.
Yeah. Anonymous.
Playlists or podcasts?
Podcast.
playlists.
Pancakes or waffles?
Waffles.
Pancakes.
Speeding through now. Keep 'em
Speak
coming.
speak to animals or speak 10 languages?
10 languages.
Languages.
Well, really? You know, we could probably figure out with a translator.
10. Yeah, I guess you're right.
Nah,
It'd be pretty cool to talk to your dog.
My dog has nothing
No,
to
I
say.
stick with
Just give me
languages.
more food.
Stick with languages.
Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix.
Netflix.
Telepathy or teleportation?
Teleportation.
Yeah, teleportation.
Trucks or billboards?
Trucks.
Trucks.
Good news or bad news first?
Good news first.
Yeah, good news.
All right, I got good news and bad news. We've come to our last stop on the show. Guys, I want to thank you for joining me. This was definitely one of the more fun conversations. I think the pairing of what you guys do is just so unique, and so really appreciate you guys being a part of the experience. Want to give you guys an opportunity to tell people where they can find Graza and Rind respectively, where they can follow up with you guys if they want to chat, things like that. So Alan, I'll let you start.
If this is hopefully launching in May, you can probably
Will be.
find us on 1,000 shippers inside Publix stores.
Let's
Hey,
go.
I
And where
love it.
else?
In Whole Foods, in Wegmans, in Myers, in Fresh Time, in the Fresh Market, on
Hey.
our website, in almost 1,000 boutiques on Fair.
Love it.
Graza is everywhere.
We love it.
We're still only sold in Court Street grocers. Hopefully we haven't been discoed. Get the clean turkey. You can find Rind in about 10,000 points of distribution now, including all Whole Foods right behind us, as well as HEB, Wegmans, the Fresh Market, Walmart, Costco, Target, CVS, and a couple other places like that.
You're my hero.
All right, cool. Well, let's go check out some of those places.